This is Duke University.
Thank you so much for being our distinguished alum this year. I'm so appreciative. Tell us a little bit about your work.
Well, my work sits between physics and biology, and I study the mechanisms by which organisms interact with the physical environment around them and with each other. So I borrow tools from engineering and physics to ask biological questions. Early in my career as an undergrad, all my classes were, here's the material, understand it. And we never learned where that material came from. And so I didn't learn till I got to Duke that if you had a question about the world and nobody'd answered it yet, you could answer it. That you could do the original research to answer that question if it wasn't in the literature already.
You didn't discover that you had dyslexia until you were in your 40s.
Yeah.
But you've said that you think dyslexia actually helped you in your science. Can you explain that?
For me, humanities courses like history and English literature were torture because I read so slowly. It wasn't physically possible to get through all the material in the time we had. Whereas science was always easy to me because if you understood it, you didn't have to read the book. All my friends were memorizing the book, but I couldn't get through it. But if I understood it, when I went into an exam, I could just figure out what the answer was. And so I thought I was cheating, at the time. But now I realize that when I learn things, the only way I can learn them is to understand them. I can't memorize anything. And then the other thing that's been good about dyslexia is that dyslexics, although we can't process visual symbols very well, we get all scrambled, we're very good at 3D visualization of structures. And so I can see a structure and envision what it would look like from all other dimensions. And we're also very good at envisioning how things change through time. And so studying fluid mechanics and how the turbulent structures change with time, or studying organism motion, or just the structure of organisms from inside and out is easy for me to visualize. So I struggle to read the papers other people have written about it, but when I just face nature, it's easy for me to see physical things.
Now, as your biography noted, and that you've kind of touched on a bit, self-confidence was something you struggled with as a grad student, and at times during your career. This is a common challenge for many of our graduate students. Can you talk about how you dealt with it and what advice you would give students who are wrestling with that issue?
Yeah, so I will say I came to Duke and I was waitlisted, so I knew that I was the last person in my class who'd been accepted. So I knew I was dumber than everybody else. And then I looked around and everybody's from Harvard and Yale and Cornell, and I was from this little college nobody'd heard of. So I was scared and I worked really hard. And I ended up being really successful so I think lack of self-confidence is good in a way, because if you aren't debilitated by it, if you use it as a challenge to overcome, I think it helps you do the hard work that's required.
What advice would you offer the graduate students who are graduating this weekend?
You should think of your career as a path and not a ladder. A ladder leans against a wall, and when you get to the top, there's a preordained place you are. And if you fall off the ladder, that's kind of disastrous. And every rung on the ladder is some preordained step that somebody else told you to take. Whereas if you think of your career as a path, it winds through really interesting territory, and it may double back on itself, and there may be branches. And the whole time along the path is interesting.